Hey, my friends. Mike Davis here. Welcome from the BookHouse, somewhere in Texas. Let me know if you're watching live, if you can see me and hear me all right, especially hear me all right. And if you're watching later, you can do the same thing if you want. So, sounds good, everybody? Hey, Alan, Haruka, Frank, everybody, Newman. Let's see here. Yep. All right. So yeah, it's another Thursday night. Appreciate you guys being with me. And wow, let me get my notes out here because all right, there we go. So tonight, all right, this is late night with Lovecraft eZine. So unlike Sundays, I have turned almost all of the lights out so we can simulate that late night DJ environment. And I'm watching your chats on the side here. Appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are all joining me. Um, I call my office that I'm lucky enough to have in our new house the BookHouse. For those of you who don't know, it is actually a separate from the regular house. It's about, I don't know, 10 feet away, but it's its own building. I feel very lucky. I never thought I'd have something like this, but it's great. I told Kelly Young the other night that it also has a bat cave feel. For those of you who have seen photographs, I'm looking at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens, and usually 6, but I've got my tablet on my piano over there because I'm uh, I'm getting my, how should I put this? It There was a gap of a few years between when I didn't play the piano. About a year and a half ago, my wife got a bonus at work, worked real hard for that, and she bought me something that I'd wanted a long time, which is a really, really nice electric piano. So I've got it over there playing songs, and it's not playing songs. I'm playing from the sheet music, and I'm also using it to go from get back to the level that I was at years ago. So anyway, I don't know how many of you knew that I play the piano, but I do. And actually, I don't know if I should say that. Yeah, I play the piano, and I'm getting better at it again. Let's put it that way. So anyway, Dave, let's see who we have here. We have uh, we have Alan, we have I'm One of Us, Haruka, Frank, Joe, Brian. Let's see, Jeff, Jay, Mark, Jeff again, and Snixel Mix. Hey everybody, Jalen, Suzanne. I think that's you at Rogowski Reads, right? And who am I missing? Dave, Chaz, and so far Brandon. All right. So anyway, if I missed anyone, I'm sorry. I really appreciate you guys being with me and keeping me company tonight. So, um, someone asked me a question. If there's something you want me to, Vince, hey, good to see you. Um, oh, okay, Mark. Mark sent me an email about Petrified. Um, that's a new podcast. All right, I don't know if it's new or not, but Mark recommended it to me, and no, I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, Mark, but I'm definitely going to, especially if Late Night with Lovecraft eZine has given you similar vibes. Also, another one that I'm about to start is called, got it written on the bulletin board over here. It's called Tower 4. It looks really, really interesting. It really looks like my kind of thing. Mark, I also will check out Petrified. If I don't get back to you in a week or so about it, then please remind me. Um, Tower 4 podcast. I don't want to get this wrong, so I'm going to pull this up. Tower 4 is a mystery thriller podcast about a guy by the name of Mike Archer, a new fire watcher in the Wyoming woods. Excuse my voice tonight. Mike is looking for fires and writing a book, but he soon begins to experience strange interference on his radio at night and hears creepy noises in the woods. Mike isn't sure if the strange occurrences are actually happening or if he's going crazy. And I think I saw on Spotify in the short, like 60-second trailer or heard that he's in some time communication with a gal who is in Tower 3 watching for fires in the Wyoming woods. So um, I'm really excited about that one. I'm gonna check that out starting tonight, and then I'm gonna head into Petrified Mark. But it's kind of the same vibe, isn't it? Late night thriller, mystery, paranormal, supernatural stuff going on. And yeah, if any of the rest of you have listened to Tower 4, please let me know. All right, let me check and see what everyone's talking about. Well said, Vince. Derp. Listen, smell something? Hey, Ben. All right, Dave. Yes, the custard pie update. Um, Danielle makes me custard pie every couple of months or so. If I had it every week, I would be in worse shape than I am now. But she wanted to cheer me up about Rick and everything. She made me a custard pie last week. I told you guys about that. And actually, she and Logan made it, my son, and it was fantastic. So um, I finished it off in about a day and a half. So now I'm hoping maybe I can finagle another custard pie this weekend because Saturday is my birthday. Um, someone else who's watching live right now just had a birthday too. Got something pretty cool, but I think that's top secret. So happy birthday again, man. Um, all right, there's the custard pie update. I really appreciate you guys asking me questions and chatting in the sidebar. Um, feels more like a conversation. Um, Brandon H says, "Were you disappointed when Guillermo del Toro gave up on At the Mountains of Madness?" Is that recent news that he gave up on it? Um, I'm not disappointed about Del Toro um, doing Mountains of Madness or not doing Mountains of Madness. Um, I think there are a lot of, no, not a lot, but several directors who would do a very, very good job. Uh, I might have mentioned this last week, but I think Christopher Nolan would do a fantastic job, and the word is he's thinking about doing a horror movie. So, you know, I don't know if he's into Lovecraft or not, but I do know that everything that he decides to do a movie about, you know, 98% of the time, seems to me he does a fantastic job. Um, what was the name of the second movie he did? The first movie was something called Following, and this was over 20 years ago. I think it was called Following. And then the next movie was Memento, which I'm really due for a rewatch on that one. Yeah, Mark Memento, thanks. So I don't know. I think Nolan would do a great job with Mountains of Madness or Shadow Out of Time. Um, I mean, what are some other directors you guys think would do a great job with at the Mountains of Madness? Um, Kim, hello. Kim says the jack-o'-lantern in the background makes for a fine background for spooky stories. Yeah, it's sort of reflecting, and I don't know what's yeah. And yeah, actually, I was wondering the same thing, Edward. Has anyone else watched Dead Boy Detectives? And if so, was it was it worth a watch? It seemed like kind of a young adult thing, but maybe that's just me. All right, well, Oreo is over there, and she's not on the camera tonight, but um, she's sleeping right over there in my easy chair. Yes, Mike Flanagan would do a good job too. I know I mentioned this last week, but when I interviewed him back in the day, he is into Lovecraft, so I think he'd do a great job. His movie Absentia is Lovecraftian, in my opinion. So anyway, off of Mountains of Madness, wanted to say that my social media accounts are in the show notes below. But that said, more and more I am enjoying um, posting quotes of books that I'm in the middle of, or books that I'm rereading, or just, uh, yeah, those two things, or quotes that just mean a lot to me. So I'm going to start posting those more on Patreon. Now, the thing with the Patreon is you can become a patron for only $5 a month, but and then you get all of the Patreon podcasts, and then all the benefits just go up from there. However, I mentioned Patreon to also say this: if you can't afford Patreon, then just join the free version, because that's sort of like another social media for me, and it's turning into more and more of the main one, or one of the main ones. I don't know what's going to happen with Blue Sky, Twitter, all of those. I have a lot of followers on Facebook, and I don't think Facebook is going away, and the Facebook page isn't going away. But go to the Lovecraft eZine Patreon if you can afford $5 a month or more. It sure does help me, but I'm not trying to give you a sales pitch. If you can't afford that much, then join the free version, and you'll get the free stuff that I sent. For example, what was it yesterday that I posted on Patreon? Give me a second, and I will let you know. It was It was a quote. If my computer would get a little faster here. Oh, there it is. Right, right. Speaking of Del Toro, it was a quote from, and this is the first time I've done a quote that wasn't from a book, but The Devil's Backbone, which, if you haven't seen it, is a really moody, fantastic movie. So the quote is this. I need to rewatch it, but if I remember correctly, it's right at the beginning. Excuse me, I have to drink a lot of water. My mouth gets dry because of some of the medications that I have to take. Here's the quote. What is a ghost? A tragedy condemned to repeat itself time and again? A moment of pain, perhaps. Something dead which still seems to be alive. An emotion suspended in time, like a blurred photograph, like an insect trapped in amber. Uh, that's just a great quote, great writing. Um, yeah. So I'm going to keep posting stuff like that to the free end of the Patreon. So feel free to join up. Um, Facebook and all the rest you can find below. I won't bore you with all of those. Let's see here. You'll also get, with my social media and also with the Patreon, you'll get an idea of what I'm reading at the moment or rereading. I firmly believe that reading is rereading. You know, what's the saying? No man walks into a river um, more than once. Excuse me, because it's not the same river and he's not the same man. That's a horrible paraphrase, but the point is that when you read a book and you go back years later or months later or whenever and you reread it, you've got more experience under your belt and you've got different viewpoints and hopefully more wisdom. So yeah, you'll get a taste of what I'm reading and rereading. All right, let me go back up here and see what you guys are saying. Yeah, the Bradbury quote. Thank you, Dave. Um, if you go to the YouTube, well, which you're on right now, but anytime if you go to the YouTube channel, the Lovecraft eZine YouTube channel, first of all, whatever is live and upcoming, you'll see at the very top. I added a new playlist. If you go down, it's kind of organized. I've got the Sunday podcast, the Thursday night live, several other things, and the newest one, which just has one video on it right now, is me reading quotes, narrating a paragraph or just a few lines of something that means a lot to me, or maybe I'm reading it right now and it uh, it hit hits me that I want to share it with everybody else. So yeah, ta take a look at that when you get time, and I will keep adding to that probably at least twice a week. So um, that's what it was. It was Yeats. Thank you, Jeff, for the reminder. That poem, "The Song of Wandering Aengus," I have known that poem by heart since I don't know mid to late teens. It just is moody. It's beautiful. So you'll probably see more Yeats on there. of course, Bradbury, um, and a lot of Robert Frost. If I had to pick a favorite poet, it would definitely be Robert Frost. Um, Speaking of Bradbury, Ben Handelman, I just want to thank you for your offer of sending that signed Bradbury book that you have to me. Very much appreciated, sir. So, yeah. Um, I'm kidding. Yeah, Chaz, no, Kim, I'm sorry. No man ever steps into the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man. Thank you, because my paraphrase was horrible. Um, Thanks, Dave, for the kind word about the Patreon. I'll have another Patreon podcast coming up in the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that. Um, okay. Edward, good question. I mentioned this last week, but just briefly, I talked to Rick's daughter, and it was going to be at least minimum $1,500 for me to fly to New York from Texas with hotel, Uber, food, all that stuff. And I thought if Rick could give us an answer, it would mean more to him to do a online memorial sometime in the next few weeks. And she agreed. And what we're going to do is gather the panelists, some friends of Rick's, and then when Scott Eckert is helping me gather people that Rick was friends with from the pulp uh, area of everything, and we'll just all have, as Matt Carpenter said, we'll kind of have an Irish wake where we tell stories about Rick, talk about what a wonderful man he was, and it'll always be there for his family and friends and for anyone to watch and to listen to. So that's probably going to be coming up. I'm trying to. There are a lot of people to schedule to make sure that we can get on the same date, but it's probably going to be at the end of May for sure, not past the first week of June. I don't want to go past that. So, um, Brandon Rick was a really nice guy. In fact, and I don't say this lightly, probably one of the nicest, kindest um, men I have ever met in my life. So full of integrity and kindness. The kind of guy uh, that's the kind of father I would love to have if I had one. And he told me not a month ago. I wrote it down. I didn't plan on saying this, so I don't have notes, but he said that I was a very kind man, and that wasn't the first time he said it. And I thought to myself, that's like Mozart telling someone that they're a great musician, you know? Because Rick was what you'd want to attain to. And he was a great man, not just because of everything he knew and his amazingly vast knowledge and his ability to pull that knowledge right out of the ether, no matter what we were talking about. All of that made him great. But in addition to that, what made him great was that the kind of person he was and his kindness and the family man that he was. So I'm really going to miss him. I think we all are. I've been very depressed for the last, since I found out, like 9 days now, and starting to come out of it just a little bit. I know I'm not the only one. He had many friends. So it's not about me. But as my wife said to me today, Rick would not want you to be sad. If he could talk to you right now, he wouldn't want you to be sad. So the thing is, when you lose someone dear to you, in my experience, what happens is that it's like kind of like waves on a shore, and it's the surf coming in, and it's happening all the time. The waves keep hitting the shore, and that the question is, does that sadness ever go away? Does the hurt ever go away? No, it doesn't. But it the waves get fewer and there more time between the waves crashing, if that makes sense. And sometimes it takes longer than other times. And there'll be times a year, 2 years, 3 years from now where I feel like I'm fine and I'll think of Rick and I'll break down and sobbing about it. But in my experience, I don't know about you guys, you can tell me. For those of you who've lost people that you really care about, that you really love, um, that's what happens. Those waves keep crashing on you at the beginning, and then they lessen and they lessen. So, yeah, Ben, you know exactly what I'm talking about um, with your father. And yeah, that conversation with between Rick and Les Klinger, just incredible. Two extremely knowledgeable guys. By the way, Les Klinger, another really nice guy, uh, very well known. What's his name? The Iron guy who played Iron Man. I'm sorry, my fibro is wreaking havoc with me. And played Sherlock Holmes as well. Um, Tony Stark is not his name. That's the yeah, Robert Downey Jr. Thank you, Dave. Les told me that Robert Downey Jr. consulted with him before he played Sherlock. Um, and interesting anecdote. My wife was teaching Frankenstein this year, and you guys may know that that's one of the novels that Les has annotated. He does it really, really well. He's done Lovecraft, Dracula, Frankenstein. Uh, gosh, I don't know what else. Several others. Yeah, he was Gaiman's lawyer. I think he still is, but I'm not sure. And so I said to Danielle, I said, uh, I told her about Les. This is how kind of a person that Les Klinger is. He agreed to do a Zoom meeting with Danielle and the entire class. And it was so cool. This book that's, so, you know, so old, especially compared to these guys. And Danielle makes it come alive. And then they got even more excited with Les just talking with them, and the excitement was infectious from Les to them, and they had some great questions ready for him. And I was there to make sure that everything went smooth, and it did. And the kids loved it. My wife loved it. So So I've known Les quite a few years now. So yeah, it was really kind of him to do. Um, that's right, Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll and Hyde. Here, here's the thing about his annotated books, and this personal preference only, no slight, but I prefer Les's annotated Lovecraft over Joshi's. But that said, Les does such a great job with whatever he annotates. I would love to have a volume of everything that Les has annotated in print, but I would also love to have a volume of everything he's annotated for my Kindle because I love to highlight, and obviously Kindle is searchable. So one of these days when I have $1,000 to piss away, I'm going to buy all of that in hardcover and in Kindle. I do have Frankenstein in Kindle and one other, can't remember. But Dave's, oh yes, that's right. He did Watchmen. Les is amazing. He's a really amazing guy. You guys should go to Amazon or wherever you get your books, type in Leslie Klinger, and get an annotated book of his or five. He did Watchmen, and Dave says, true, Klinger's books are amazing, but they are so dang heavy. Yeah, so the Kindle helps with that. So, Dave, you're going to make my wife's day when I tell her that you want to sign up for her class. So, I know I'm biased, but I keep hearing this from kids over and over when at the school that she's their favorite teacher. One girl, um, who's actually going to be, she's already fairly famous, but I won't mention her name, but she came up to Danielle today and she said that she she's a senior now. She had Danielle for a year in English class, and then the last 2 years she's had another teacher. And she went, she brought Danielle a card today and wrote a nice note on it and said that she wishes that Danielle was still her teacher. Not that the other teacher is a bad teacher by any means, but I don't know. Danielle's genuine. She cares. She wants to impart the knowledge, but this is going to sound hokey, but she really reminds me of Robin Williams in Dead Poet Society. That's the kind of teacher she is. So, the interview with Les Klinger. Which one are you talking about, Chaz? Danielle and I thought too late at school that we should have recorded that. But the gang and I have interviewed Les several times over the years. Um, so you can go to the Lovecraft eZine YouTube channel and search just the channel and maybe type in Klinger and you should find them all. Um, Someone sent me a comment today about a an episode from about 9 years ago. Um, yeah, I did. I did Patreon exclusive stuff with Les Klinger. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the reminder. Um, anyway, my point is that they're like, I'm loving the interview. This wasn't with Les, somebody else, but you know, um, your your quality needs to be a little bit better. Your sound quality. And I wrote back, thanks for the feedback, but it has gotten better. This is an old one. So, I convinced them to try some of the newer ones, and they agreed with me. I think what I'm going to do is create another playlist on YouTube, and I'm going to keep the, how do I want to say this? I'm going to keep the Sunday podcast when the main Lovecraft eZine podcast playlist, but then I'm going to go back a few years and I'm going to create another playlist called Lovecraft eZine Classic Podcast or something like that, and just have a warning on it or just a heads up that, hey, enjoy, but if you're watching from the days when we were using Google Meet or whatever it was, then might not be the best quality. So, so yeah. So Brian, do you agree? The sound quality got better over the years. So, oh yeah, Google Hangout. Wow, was that thing unreliable? But it was really the only choice in those days. And thanks to Ben Handelman, uh, before the pandemic, actually, I'd never heard of Zoom. And Ben got me on Zoom and got me started, and it's been a lot better ever since. Yeah, Skype was terrible, Ben. Yeah, I don't know. Skype is so moody. I've never gotten along with Skype at all. Whether it's recording something or just trying to have a conversation with people. Jeff, you guys keep commenting, and I'll comment on. You guys keep typing, and I'll comment on everything that I can. Jeff says I had an English teacher like that, like Danielle, in 10th grade, and it changed my life. That's what I said to Danielle, that hopefully we're all helping those around us and changing their lives for the better. Um, she is doing it on an exponential scale because if you have a great teacher that inspires you, as Jeff just said, a teacher that can actually change your life, and then you go on your entire life, it may be decades later, but here you are changing lives or making people's day better or making their week better or whatever. So yeah, excuse my voice tonight. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I don't have Skype on my phone, Kim. It's like Skype is like printers. Printers are moody, and Skype is worse. So makes me think of Office Space, right? That's the movie. Love that movie where they're out in the field with a bat banging on the printer, destroying the printer, and the and he's trying to print something earlier, and he's like, "PC load letter? What the fuck does that mean?" I still don't know what PC load letter means. Yeah, Office Space is great from the very first, right when the guy he's trying to go to work in that kind of traffic, and it just everything about it. The reason why that movie is still so popular, I don't think it did much right when it came out, but when it came out on rental, it just it really resonated with people because they're like, oh my God, that's my office job. So anyway, all right, I got a question for you guys. Some years ago, and I have mentioned it since, I talked about this book called Displaced Person by Lee Harding. Now, this book was published in 1979, I believe. I read it when I was, I don't know, 14 or 15. It's about a young man in high school and something strange that happens to him. The thing about it though is it's very much, I've read it several times as an adult. So it's very much, you can read it as a young adult, you can read it as a 40-year-old, and I think you'll still enjoy it. Lee Harding did not write down to kids. But anyway, when I talked about it, just, 4 or 5 years ago, I was very enthusiastic about it, and I still am. I've got two copies of it. Let's see, I think the other one is on the shelf over there. I've got the paperback and a hardcover. Um, this particular cover is really cool. Um, and so many people bought it used after I recommended it that now it's either almost impossible to find or the prices are really high. If you go on to Amazon or Abe Books or wherever, type in displaced person. I think in some versions it's called misplaced person. Both of my copies say displaced person by Lee Harding, and that's how you spell it. Leeharding. Um, if you find it for less than $60, let me know. And I've seen it a lot more. My point is if you can get a copy of this book through, as Kim said, library, or if you can afford a copy, do it. This is this is this was my first introduction to cosmic horror when I had no idea what cosmic horror was. Um, I was a voracious reader growing up, but somehow I just totally Lovecraft was just flew totally under my radar until my early 20s. So this was my first introduction that I can remember to cosmic horror. And it is so well done. I will read you the back. Oh, Kim, by the way, what about interlibrary loan? Uh, you can get almost most books on interlibrary loan. You just might have to pay the postage for when your library gets the book. Um, they'll probably send it media mail, so $3 or $4. I don't know. So a lot better than $100. Anyway, I'm going to read the back of this, and then I've got a question for you guys. Uh, Life is ordinary for 17-year-old Graham Drury until inexplicably people start to ignore him. Gradually, his world slips away from him. It becomes gray, silent, and insubstantial. Graham has to question what is real. Even his girl, Annette, becomes a ghost. Alone, he must come to terms with a new existence, moving in a dream that is horrifyingly true. Winner of the Alan Marshall Award in 1978 and the Australian Children's Book of the Year Award in 1980. From the Sydney Morning Herald, here's a blurb. A tensely told horror tale. Also, a penetrating and convincing study of emotional alienation. Don't let the Children's Book Award fool you. You very much can enjoy this as an adult. Uh, it's I can't really say anything about the plot. You just have to read it. Haruka, $48. Okay, guys. Anybody else see it for any other prices? Where do you see the $48, Haruka? Let me know. So here's my question about Displaced Person. And I've emailed several people. I emailed a gentleman who knew Lee Harding. Uh, I haven't heard from him, but I'm wondering ethically what you guys think. What I would love to do is share this with more people who can't get their hands on it, who can't get it from a library, who can't afford $48 or whatever. And this this book really deserves to be rediscovered. Um, reminds me the I knew I would like the movie The Fog when it started off with the Edgar Allan Poe quote, "All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream." And this book starts out the same way. Wish it was on Kindle. Uh, I don't know if this is more than 40,000 words or not, but it is not a thick book. But we'll call it a small novel, short novel for now. What I would really love to do is read, say, a chapter a week to the Patreons, and that way it's not out there in the general public. Just narrate it for you guys who are Patreons, and and that way you can enjoy it too. Um, I'm really going back and forth. I always want to do the right thing if I can. I really mean that. Um, I don't think doing that is going to take money out of a writer's mouth or the writer's family's mouth, because this book is pretty much mostly forgotten until I said something about it. Oh, $28 at Thrift Books? Somebody should jump on that right away. I'm telling you, this book is worth it. You'll you'll read it in one setting. If you like cosmic horror, if you like weird fiction, yeah. And it's very bittersweet. Um, it at the end, well, again, I can't really say anything about it. What would be really neat to do is a Patreon episode with spoilers after a lot of you have had a chance to read the book. So the name of the book is Displaced Person by Lee Harding. You've probably heard me talk about it before. You might also find it under Misplaced Person. There are at least two editions of it from back in the day. But Ben, if I tell you it's good, you know it will be. Um, and anyone Okay, so here's how you pay me back besides hopefully being a Patreon and telling everybody about the podcast and so forth. But here's how you pay me back for a book recommendation or a movie recommendation. You have to email me or comment on Patreon or whatever and tell me what you thought of it after you read it. So that's all I ask for book recommendations. I'm going to read I'm going to read the first no, not chapters. The first three paragraphs, if that's okay with you guys. And while I'm reading this, if you guys would keep Googling and let me know what other prices and places that you come up with. I this is such a fascinating book. I just can't say enough about it. Anyway, before I do that, Mark, wants to know what I think of John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. Mark says Carpenter may have been my introduction to cosmic horror. I love Prince of Darkness. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, if you go to my Instagram, which is, well, it's in the show notes. I can't remember what it is. Mike Davis Photos 13 or something like that. Excuse me. I like to walk at night and eh, this is a very eclectic neighborhood. I like to take macabre photos of creepy looking buildings or houses that I see. Well, I took one of a church a couple of months ago, and you won't have to scroll down very far to see it. And it is definitely Prince of Darkness vibes, you know? Check it out and let me know what you think. Oh yeah, pen pal. I did not encounter it online, the book pen pal. Um, I just discovered the book. I bought it on Kindle one day. That is one of the scariest books I have ever read. I was definitely in the top 20. It's important to not read anything about it, and as much as possible, not know anything about it before you read Pen Pal. Um, can't remember the author's name. Dathan Auerbach, something like that. Anyway, displaced person. I'm going to read the first three paragraphs. Oh, here's something else. This is a better synopsis. The change. Drury is 17 years old. Just a normal kid. I'm skipping ahead. Gets along fine with his classmates and friends. In fact, the typical all-rounder. Okay. The change begins gradually. More and more, he feels that people are ignoring him. Why? Waitresses, tram conductors, even his parents and girlfriend are looking right through him as if he does not exist. And as he becomes indistinct to them, they and their world become gray and faint to him. Is he going mad? What's going on? Graham explores his new world, finding that it is not easy even to survive. The physical things of the old world slip through his fingers. So, there you go. And here's how it starts. It's written in first person. Uh, yeah, if you've not read Pen Pal, guys, definitely read it. All right, here we go. The darkness is closing in. I must get something down before it becomes absolute. Jamie and Marion have gone already, taking the gray world with them, and I sit alone in a derelict house in some god-forsaken corner of the universe, talking into a tape recorder. The cold has gripped me so fiercely that I am afraid to move, but I must do something. So in this place devoid of light and life and hope and any kind of peace, I gain some comfort from the sound of my own voice. I feel a grinding glacier inside me, pressing hard against my chest. It is the weight of all of my fears, and I am helpless against such a pressure, but I keep talking in the vague hope that someday, somewhere, my voice will be heard. Not that I expect anyone to believe such an extraordinary tale. I have lived for a while in a place beyond human understanding, and I do not expect to survive to tell my tale. Perhaps these tapes will endure. Where did it all begin? If only I could be sure. I'll stop there. Anyone watching who has read this, uh, say something in the side chat if you have. And again, I'm really curious about the prices out there since I can't really Google right now. But so my question is, and I really want to hear what you guys think. I don't think it would harm anything to read it to my Patreons, but I just don't know. What I would really love is to get the author's permission, excuse me, the author's family's permission. The author is dead, or whoever has the rights. It may be that no one has the rights anymore, you know, in which case, of course, it doesn't harm anyone. Uh, so anyway, it if someone does have the rights, it sure would be great if nothing else, if they re-released it on Kindle. So so yeah. Let me know if you think that's ethical or unethical, or morally right or morally wrong, or is it so gray that you're right there with me? Yeah, Gwendolyn's book. That's a great title too. Her smile will untether the universe. And I've interviewed Gwendolyn several times on the podcast, and I've interviewed her for the deep background series on the Patreon. So check that out. Um, Night, Chaz. Have a good one. Thank you. Yeah, Rick would want me to feel better. Thank you. Um, Mark says that me reading it would operate more as an advertisement than theft. I hope so. I would love for someone to have the rights, his family, his kids, his grandkids, whatever, and go, hey, um, you know, let me get my grandfather's work out there some more. Put this on Kindle at the very least. Um, yeah, Ben, Kelly's book is going to be out in June, I think. All right, moving on. Feel free to let me know what you think of more opinions on Displaced Person and whether I should read it to the Patreons or not. Andrew Gloss, he is the Weirdling on Twitter, so follow him. And he wanted me to tell everybody that he's extended the dollar for dollar match through May. Um, I just cannot believe his generosity. It's just unreal. I could say the same of all of you, especially those giving financially as Patreons, and of course those if you can't afford $5 a month, I get it. Most of us can, even me. But if you can't, just spreading the word is great too. I appreciate it. Anyway, Andrew, for any new patrons in the month of May, just like in April, any patrons who level up, say you're at five and you go to $5 a month and you go to 10, he's going to match that. Or if you just want to just give me a straight up donation to the eZine through PayPal or Ko-Fi or whatever. I've got Ko-Fi on the um, in the show notes. I don't think I have Patreon in the show notes, but you can just email lovecraftezine@gmail.com. I'm not sitting here begging for money. I just want you guys to know that it's still a great time to do that if you've been thinking about it, because he's going to match whatever you give. So thank you, Andrew. If you're watching or listening now or later, I really appreciate you, man. And you encouraged a lot of new patrons in the month of April and donations, and appreciate you guys too. Um, so anyway, all right, check. I gotta turn on the light for a second because I want to show you something really cool. Now, you guys all know what a dork I am about, well, a lot of things, but about Angel, the spinoff of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. All right, so told you my birthday's coming up. Early birthday present. Check it out. It's probably hard to get the detail here, but there's Angel. Here's his sword. Let's put his sword in his hand, okay? If I can. Maybe I can't. We'll fake it. So, yeah. So there you go. If you didn't know I was a nerd before, now you really do. And here's my favorite character from Angel. I haven't taken it out of the box yet. Wesley. So, Wesley season 4. So, uh, any fans of Angel? I think you are, Ben, right? So, anyway, I know I'm a dork, but I just had to show that to you guys. All right, before I move on, um, how are you guys doing? Can't mention what show. Curse of Frank Black. Yeah, that's the one of the all-time greats when it comes to TV Halloween episodes. Um, just fantastic, man. The atmosphere is just unreal. So anyway, before I briefly talk about Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay, um, it's it falls into the cursed film category of books. Um, it comes out in June. I think I'm going to have Paul on about the time that it comes out. If you go to the Lovecraft eZine Google Calendar, which again is in the show notes, then um, it lets you know what's going on, and on Sundays, if we have a guest, who the guest is going to be. And so you can look ahead several months and plan accordingly if you want to. But while you're waiting for this to come out, which by the way, it's fantastic. I guess I don't have to tell you that because it's written by Paul. But while you're waiting for that, I'm going to do a blog post and I'm going to have it up this coming week with a list of some other ones that you can whet your appetite with while you're waiting on Paul's book. So, um, has anyone pre-ordered this yet? It's really good. Take my word for it. Um, and pre-orders mean a lot to authors. So you make Paul's day if you do a pre-order. All right, so I got sidetracked. Um, Brian says, will Langan be on the episode to pick on Paul? I would be shocked if he wasn't. So, um, how are you guys doing? Um, you having a good week, a bad week, in between? Um, am I keeping you up because you got to get up early in the morning? Um, so let me know. This is gonna sound hokey, but um, I care about you guys. The eZine community I feel like it's a family, and I appreciate you guys. I'm glad you're here, and I hope you're doing okay. So, all right, let's see. Kim says, I have been blessed with a work schedule that allows me to be up well after midnight. Dave says, can we have Danielle as a co-host one night, or is that not her thing? Um, she would absolutely love it, actually. If you guys request Danielle, then she'll do it. Um, we could do it on a do a Thursday night show and have her on, sometime maybe next week or the following week. She's got, let's see, 1, 2, 3. After tomorrow, she has 2 more weeks of school, and then she's off for the summer. And when I say off for the summer, what I mean is she's got classes that she has to occasionally go to, and she's going to teach some summer school. But she will have a lot of time off too. Um, so yeah, if you guys want her on, I could schedule her for like 3 or 4 Thursdays from now. But you have to keep requesting her because I want to be able to show her in the side chat, or if you're watching later in the comments down below, how many people want her to do it. So she's not. She'll do it. I know she will. We just have to make sure we don't turn it into a roast, right? Of me. All right. It is. We've been doing this for an hour and 9 minutes. Do you guys want me to keep going for a little bit more, or are you ready for bed? Let me know. I will. I will do whatever you guys want me to do. Dave, she has been in the chat occasionally. It would be great to verify many of your stories. They're all lies, Dave. They're all lies. No, they're not. Jay says, kind of bored before my show. So, uh, sorry to hear that, but I hope you're not bored now. Let's see. Edward says having Danielle on when she's done with school would be great. Ditto O'Brien says that. I am one of us says keep going. Yeah, Ben, thank you, Ben. Ben's told me this privately too, that just to make keep this a very, very informal thing. Not that the Sundays aren't informal, but this is just me doing a stream of consciousness thing with a few notes. So Ben says, up to you how you're feeling. I'm having fun, but don't stress yourself out. Okay. If you guys are having fun, I'll keep going. Um, yes, absolutely. Edward says, can we do a what are people reading? I could use some recommendations. Yeah, let's do that. So you guys recommend a book or two in the side chat, and especially if you're really, really enjoying it. And I will do the same. Ben, I have known you for years now. You were a listener before you were a patron, and then became a very good friend. I could say the same of many of you. But just speaking of you, Ben, thanks for everything you've done for me and the show. Ben is, well, let's just say he's supported the Patreon strongly for a very long time. And as I said a few minutes ago, helped me make the transition from that crappy Google Hangout to um, Zoom and a more quality uh, show audibly and visually. So I really appreciate you, buddy, and thanks for what you said about me not needing more stress. I don't, but I'll tell you what, you guys are giving me energy. You're not taking it away, so thank you. Ben says The Secret Language of Spiders by K.L. Young is great. Everyone should buy it. And it'll be out soon. Stay tuned. I'll link as soon as it's out. You can pre-order the Kindle right now, but you can't pre-order the print yet, but that will change soon. Brandon's enjoying a reread of Huck Finn. Edward says just finished Langan's House of Windows after reading The Fisherman. I mean, really, uh, John Langan is just a phenomenal, phenomenal writer. Um, and I'm not trying to push a book that I edited, but let me just put it to you this way. You could buy it in one of his collections. I can't remember, but I printed it first in Autumn Cthulhu, and it's a novella called Anchor, and it is absolutely fabulous. And reading it, you definitely think of John and you think of Laird. So if you haven't read Anchor in Autumn Cthulhu yet, you should. Um, John, I was asking for all short stories, of course, for an anthology, and John sent me that, and he said, I don't know if you'll want to accept it because it's more of a novella than a short story. And I said, well, let me read it, knowing that if John wrote it, it's going to be great. And actually, it was beyond great. I couldn't say no, and didn't want to say no. So it's in that book. So all right, recommendations. Kim says, "Oh, Hector, I liked those old quote unquote crappy hangouts too. I just do want the sound, at the very least, the good sound quality to be there, especially for people who are just listening later in their cars or, on Spotify or iTunes or whatnot. So, but yeah, I'm not dissing them in the least. So, um, Kim says she highly recommends the Pallbearers book by Paul Tremblay. Very true. Uh, I love all of Paul's books, but I will tell you what, my favorite book of Paul Tremblay's is Disappearance at Devil's Rock. I've read it twice. It's If you like Paul Tremblay, you'll love it. Um, I'm not going to talk about it because spoilers and all that, but it's my favorite book of his. Dave says I am reading a fairly new title by John Hatch. What the title looks like it's What Do You Mean Murder? Clue and the Making of a Cult Classic. Oh, okay, nonfiction. Okay, great. That sounds like an interesting read. The Fisherman. Oh, yeah. Edward says Anchor is great. Kim says listening to the audio version of Woman in the Woods by Milton Davis. Excellent narrator. Why does that sound familiar? But I'm not placing it, Kim. Woman in the Woods. I'm blanking. What is that about? Brian says Todd Kiesling's Devil's Creek was great. Thinking of going with Straub's Shadowland or Coco next. Yeah, Brian, go with Disappearance at Devil's Rock next. You really should. Um, what am I reading or just came in the mail? I have been looking forward to reading this for a long time, and it just came in the mail. The Grin of the Dark by an unknown writer by the name of Ramsey Campbell. Um, I'm really looking forward to it. I know I'll enjoy it. I can't tell you much about it yet. Nothing about it yet, really, but there's that. Let me recommend a couple of things that, couple of books that stop me if I said this on a previous Thursday. But first of all, this anthology, Black Water, is one hell of a doorstop, and there are some really, really great stories in here. All right, that's the short versions. Short version. Um, a book by Marcel Bryan called Way Stations of the Deep Night. Um, First published in the dark year of 1942, the story collection Way Stations of the Deep Night remains the best known of Marcel Bryan's numerous works in the vein of the strange and fantastic. The journeys in this volume carry the reader through the surreal vistas of an underground city that appears above ground as a bizarre theater of facades and a fire ravaged landscape where souls turn to ash. By playing with the format of the ghost story or horror tale, Bryan transforms the romantic way stations in this volume into stages on an inward journey, into lucid dreams, and no less, lucid nightmares. I don't know how you can resist this book just listening to this synopsis. Way Stations evokes a deep night of strange encounters, enigmatic transformations, and labyrinthian journeys. Um, I'll stop there, but yeah, you really should get it. Way Stations of the Deep Night by Marcel Bryan, Brion. I uh, I don't know if it's available on Kindle or not without looking. Um, Brandon, yep, you're right. I got this for Christmas. Lord of the Rings. And it's illustrated by the author. Just fantastic, man. So I'm loved by my family. Yeah, ancient images, Jay. I have ancient images will go on that list that I'm creating for the Lovecraft eZine website slash blog. That'll be one of the entries while folks are waiting for Paul's book, horror movie. So yeah, um, good call. Good call, man. If I didn't say this last time, Nocturnes by John Connolly is, I'm trying to get this down without dumping angels' weapons all over the place. Nocturnes by John Connolly. This is a first edition signed by John Connolly, and I can't afford stuff like that. My good friend Pete Rollick sent it to me because he knew I was such a fan of the book. Um, but it's fantastic. It's a short story collection um, by the guy who writes the Charlie Parker series. And the good news is it's available on Kindle Unlimited right now. So, and it's also available on Audible, read by Jeff Harding, who is a hell of a narrator. He's really he's a great narrator. Um, so in the weird fiction vein, just like Way Stations of the Deep Night and other books I've mentioned, here's another one for you, The Lost District by Joel Lane. Um, let's see here. These stories portray human encounters with the unknown, sexual discovery, drug-inspired visions, the lonely paths of madness, and the shadowy realm on the other side of death. Here you will here you will read of a porn film actor whose scars reveal the forces controlling his life, an underground factory where outsiders pay a terrible price in order to belong, a musician haunted by the madness of a dead singer, a neighborhood falling into corrupt echoes of itself, and a man who literally follows his ex-lover to the end of the world. 24 stories range from grim urban horror tales to weird erotic fantasies and bitter allegories of loss and exploitation. So there you go. Now this book here, oh, by the way, um, speaking of lucid dreaming, description a couple of books back, who was it that said that who was it that started all this? Because you want book recommendations. I'm sorry. Um, if you have not read The Shadows by Alex North, um, get it now and read it. It's really, really good. It is really good. And if you like listening to books as well, listen to The Shadows by Alex North in the dark when you go to bed tonight, or just in the dark, period. Or hey, even better, listen to it as you're driving down a dark, lonely country lane at 12:30 in the morning. Then you'll really be in the mood. Am I a fan of Walter Mosley? I read one of his books a while back. I can't remember which one, and he's talented as hell. Uh, that's undeniable. But he's just not he just didn't click with me. So, you know, that happens sometimes. All right, here's another really great weird fiction book. This is a novel. Um, Ben, have you read this one? The 20 Days of Turin? I mentioned it to Paul one time as I was in the middle of it a year or two ago, and he got really excited. He's like, "Ah, I love that book." The 20 Days of Turin, a novel by Giorgio di Maria. Okay. Uh, am I a fan of McCammon? I love Robert McCammon. Boy's Life is one of the best books ever written. Um, this is kind of a long synopsis, but I'll just read this blurb about the 20 Days of Turin. An unholy masterwork of the macabre, more than just a beautifully terrifying ghost story. Uh, set in the 70s in Italy. That's all I'll say, except if you're a fan of weird fiction, you really should read it. So, yeah, Ben, get it when you can and let me know what you think about it. In fact, the 20 Days of Turin, let's see if that's available on Kindle. Because I know you're trying to keep going digital as much as you can. It is. It's on Kindle, Ben. So, there you go. Listen to this sentence. An NPR Best Book of the Year, written during the height of the 1970s Italian domestic terror, a cult novel with distinct echoes of Lovecraft makes its English language debut. So there you go. Um, Jay, I have read Boy's Life. This is not an exaggeration. Literally at least 10 times in my life. Uh, since it came out in, I think it was the early 90s. So, yeah. All right, Ben, let me know what you think of the 20 Days of Turin. I would, the 20 Days of Turin, I guess the Lost District, um, even Nocturnes, and then Way Stations of the Deep Night and Blackwater. These are all they're great examples of weird fiction. Um, Nocturnes is pretty gothic in in some ways. I've been re-listening to it at night, um, narrated by Jeff Harding. So, um, one of the stories in Nocturnes is called The New Daughter. That was turned into a movie 15 years ago or so, something like that, starring Kevin Costner. And it is actually it's on my list at the Lovecraft eZine website under, you know, Lovecraftian movies. Um, it's a really good horror movie. It really is. Um, yeah. Do you like The New Daughter, Kim? Great book. Oh, here's one. Here's one more. I'm I'm lucky in my friends, and that includes all of you guys. I stop me if I'm an old man telling stories more than once. This is a book called The Night Country. Uh, there we go, that way. By Stuart Onan. I first encountered this in the Urbandale Library in Iowa in 2006 or 2007, something like that. And if you're into Halloween, that kind of vibe and horror, obviously you're into horror if you're here. But this is basically about um, a group of teenagers, 5 teenagers who on Halloween night the year before are being kids driving too fast out just outside of town and crash into a tree at a high rate of speed. And three of them die. One of them walks away unscathed or physically, and one of them has brain damage. And if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to read the jacket cover. And I will tell you this, the first night, or excuse me, the first few pages of this book, the first paragraph, is just the whole book, but it's just really dripping with Halloween. Uh, I'm just holding back from reading it because that would take me 15 minutes. But I will read the cover, um, unless you guys tell me that I've done this before. Excuse me. I want to thank all of you for being part of the eZine family. It means a lot to me. Um, all of you. Appreciate it. All right, Stuart Onan's. Oh, by the way, this edition you won't find anywhere unless it's really expensive online somewhere. I don't know how many copies were sold, very few, but look at that. stuff like that in the book. Stuart sent me this. I just couldn't believe it. What a generous thing to do. And it is signed. It's also on Audible, by the way, but it is not available on Kindle. Yeah, um, yeah, Jay, I got lucky. And the really important thing about this is that it's, by the way, the epigraph is for Ray Bradbury, so that should tell you a lot. But this is also something that from now on, whenever Ben gives me shit about having a signed Ray Bradbury book or two, I will just show you this. Signed by Stuart Onan, signed by Paul Tremblay, who did the afterword on this edition, wrote the afterword on this edition, and also signed by Francois Villancourt, who illustrated the book. Isn't that cool looking? The Night Country by Stuart Onan. All right, so no one said no, so I'm going to read the jacket cover. Ben, you've heard me talk about this before, and Kim too, probably, and several others. Have you gotten to it yet? I mean, all of our TBRs are mountain high, right? Stuart Onan's classic tale of small town life and Halloween hauntings is back in print as a beautiful signed and slip-cased limited edition hardcover from Levidian Publications. Okay, here's the important part. At midnight on Halloween in a cloistered New England suburb, a car carrying 5 teenagers leaves a winding road and slams into a tree, killing 3 of the passengers. One escapes unharmed. Another suffers severe brain damage. A year later, summoned by the memories of those closest to them, the 3 who died come back on a last chilling mission among the living. A strange and unsettling ghost story, the night country creeps through the leaf-strewn streets and quiet cul-de-sacs of a bedroom community, reaching into the desperately connected yet isolated lives of 3 people changed forever by the accident. Tim, who survived yet lost everything. Brooks, the cop whose guilty secret has destroyed his life. And Kyle's mom trying to love the new son the doctors returned to her. This is set exactly 1 year later, by the way, on Halloween. As the day wanes and darkness falls, one of them puts a terrible plan into effect, and they find themselves caught in a collision of need and desire, watched over by the knowing ghosts. Macabre and moving, the night country elevates every small town's bad high school crash into myth, finding the deeper human truth beneath a shared and very American tragedy. Um, it's amazing. I guess that's all I can really say. So, all right. Anything else before we call it a night? Uh, we will do a podcast this Sunday. Um, probably with no guest. The author that I was supposed to have on last Sunday was very gracious, totally understood. I'm not sure if I'll have him on this Sunday or ask him to reschedule for a few weeks from now. But anyway, I just one of the best part of this job is all the friends I've made, and I mean that sincerely. I'm not trying to be disingenuous or anything. That's genuine. One of the other wonderful parts of this job is recommending books like this. You know, books that I love so much that I just want to say, "Hey, here, read this. You're going to love it." You know, so that's what I'm trying to do. So so now remember the deal, guys. If you read any of these in the near future, the Night Country, the Lost District, 20 days, the 20 Days of Turin, Way Stations of the Deep Night, um, you got to email me, lovecraftezine@gmail.com, lovecraftezine@gmail, or just comment below. I get an alert when people comment. So if you read one of these books and you comment 6 weeks from now below the video, I will see your comment and I'll reply. Um, that's probably better anyway because it helps the algorithm for YouTube. Um, Edward says, "Wow, thanks for all the book recs. Thank you for listening to me talk on about the book recs." Excuse me. Dave says, "Well, thank you for spending time with us Thursday nights. It makes my week so much better." Wow. Thank you, Dave. Wow, that means a lot. And this means a lot too. Jay says, "You feel like a friend." That's what I want from this community, for all of us to feel that way about each other. Thank you for saying that, Jay. Um, Gomro says he arrived at the last minute. Night Country certainly sounds like good stuff. It is, and Gomro, you can always watch the recorded version of this, which should be up pretty much as soon as I sign off. So, um, and Ben says, always enjoy these. Hey, don't forget about Tower 4, the podcast Tower 4. Check that out and let me know what you guys think of that too. I'm going to start the first episode tonight, and then I'm going to listen to the other podcast that was recommended to me. So, JB Lee, your name sounds familiar. So, anyway, anyone else have any questions or comments before I log off? Um, Let me double check my notes and make sure I didn't forget anything. Let's see here. I don't think so. I've got more to say about Rick, but I'm gonna save the rest of that for when we do the memorial episode. When Scott Eckert will be here, uh, hopefully all of the regular eZine panelists, and hopefully a lot of people from the pulp side of things. Conan, The Shadow, um, hell, you name it. It's late. I can't think. But I just want to thank you guys for being here. Thank you for all the encouragement. Thanks for listening. And please, by all means, let me know what you think of the recommendations. And, oh, last but not least, if there's something that you want me to talk about in the future, let's say, next Thursday, a comment below or send me an email, lovecraftezine@gmail.com. So, um, and we can all thank Ben for the quality of the audio and the video, for getting me going on this about 5 years ago. So, am I a Doc Savage fan? Not really. I enjoy it. I've enjoyed it, but it's not really my thing. I like Fu Manchu. I've read the first Fu Manchu a couple of times. I'm not sure if I've read the other ones. That's the other kind of thing. Rick loved that. Dark Shadows. Dave mentioned Kolchak, the Night Stalker. Yeah, it's funny. you guys were mentioning Kolchak. Um, I was actually thinking of I am going to watch an episode or two of uh, Kolchak tonight or tomorrow before I go to bed, or maybe when I take a break during the day tomorrow or whatnot. Um, Man, Rick loved that show, and he wrote Kolchak stories too, by the way, that were published. Um, what else was I going to say? Oh, if you like The Shadow, who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men. Rick wrote a book called Chronology of Shadows, a timeline of the Shadow's exploits. And one of the first things you learn is that, um, well, I guess I learned it. My mind just blanked. The name that everyone thinks is the Shadow's name is not really his name. His real name is Kent Allard. Not Lamont Cranston. It's not Lamont Cranston really. Um, it's a really interesting read, nonfiction read about the Shadow, and he was the expert. I asked him once if he enjoyed the Alec Baldwin, um, what was it, mid '90s the Shadow movie, and he said he did. For what it was, he enjoyed it. Um, I did too. So anyway, guys, thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. If you want me to talk about something next Thursday, just email me or comment below and let me know. And thanks for being here. You guys enjoy the rest of your Friday and Saturday, and we'll see you Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And goodbye and hello, as always.